India's largest broking company, Groww, has opened their IPO and is now finally debuting on Dalal Street. How are you feeling?
I think it's not finally, it's just the start of the journey.
Now you guys are number one in terms of market share. You have 14 million users. What is the plan over the next couple of years? How much do you think you can take that to?
Think about the wealth, like there are trillions of dollars that are lying in traditional assets, and since 2016 we have seen how those assets are moving towards financial assets. So yeah, that's how I think we see. So number of customers will also continue growing in the country, plus the wealth also will continue growing.
I noticed that you don't, look at yourself as a discount broker anymore. You've diversified into a whole host of products and you're also very bullish on the wealth management space.
The way we like to think about ourselves is that we are a platform where customers can come in, they have option to they build their wealth through multiple products.
This is a market that is largely a duopolistic market where there is, of course, Groww and then there is Zerodha as well. What is it that you guys did differently?
We have been investing in the market as a customer, but we were not from the industry. So we thought about this problem from a consumer point of view.
The fact that SEBI is looking to phase out weekly expiry as well. So how much do you think the impact could be going forward, and is this really a big challenge for growth? Hey guys, I'm happy to be a part of Zerodha's media network. Together, Zerodha and I plan to bring to you simple yet effective and impactful news and views from the best minds in the financial world. Hey guys, welcome to the Money Mindset. Now, India's largest broking company, Groww, has opened their IPO and is now finally debuting on Dalal Street. So it's going to be a very interesting discussion. Lalit Keshre of Groww is right here with me. Lalit, thank you so much for joining us on the Money Mindset.
Thank you, Sonia.
So it's been a long journey for you, and finally you have reached the stage where you're, debuting on Dalal Street. How are you feeling?
Feeling good. So I think finally, it's not finally, it's just the start of the journey. I think many more years to go, and this is like a new stage in the life of the company where we take it from here forward.
It's very different, right? Being a private company and then, of course, going public. There's nowadays a lot of scrutiny that takes place in terms of everything, whether it's numbers, whether it's valuations. I do know the numbers, but I just want to understand from your lens how much is the money you're looking to raise and where that money would be deployed. And then, of course, we'll talk more about the business as well.
Sure. So we are company has been operationally profitable for last 3 years. So the cash requirement is very less in the company. We are raising around 1,000 crore, and rest of the raise has to be OFS, right? And we'll continue doing so. Nothing kind of from our strategy, from our long-term vision perspective, nothing changes, and just that you are more accountable and so on, as you said.
And every line item will now be scrutinized.
That's it's good to be accountable, right? You are managing people's hard-earned money, and yeah.
So, your valuations also look quite reasonable, actually. If you compare it to a lot of the new age startups, right? The fear of shareholders has always been that there is nothing left for shareholders on the table. But I think at least from my lens, for you, the valuations do look reasonable. But can you tell me a little bit about how you arrived at these valuations?
So typically how it happens in the IPO process is that there are buyers, there are sellers, there are bankers. They come up with kind of, some numbers based on your what is your growth been like, what is your profitability, and then they compare with the peers and then discount, premium, whatever, and then they kind of, you give some discount and so on. And that's how you come up with some number which is win-win for everybody. You kind of think, and then you go from there. So that's how we kind of came up with it.
So in terms of growth, right? I mean, now you guys are at what? Number one in terms of market share. You have 14 million users. These are unique users on your platform. What is the plan over the next couple of years? How much do you think you can take that to?
So see, Sonia, we look at very long term. So look at if you compare India with developed countries. So we have to accept one fact that India is growing faster than any other country, compounding faster than any other country at this scale, right? So our GDP will continue growing. We will become a developed country. And if we compare ourselves against those countries, the penetration is so low today, right? Today, give or take, between mutual fund stocks all put together, will be 70 million odd customers.
Mhm.
And I mean, somewhere around that. But if you look at like, overall where, if you just compare the penetration with respect to the other countries and so on, and just look at the power of middle class in the country, right? Affluent base is growing and so on. So they can be as high as like 400 million people who can participate in the markets. Plus, also think about the wealth. Like there are trillions of dollars that are lying in like traditional assets, and since 2016 we have seen how those assets are moving towards financial assets. So gold, real estate, deposits. Now there are products in the capital market also for those kind of products. Real estate REITs are there now, coming now
Yeah.
for deposit. Now bonds are coming for fixed income, right? And then there are gold ETFs are becoming so popular now, as you have seen. So yeah, that's how, like, I think we see. So number of customers will also continue growing in the country, plus the wealth also will continue growing.
So do you have any projections for your own business? I mean, from 14 million, what do you think you could take it to over the next couple of years?
So I think we avoid giving projections, but what we say that, yeah, like, we will continue to kind of, we have been growing the fastest and will continue kind of the input metrics. I can tell you what we keep doing, so that then that there's growth and number of customers, and so is output metric. What we will keep doing is keep building it for the for keep investing in the technology, because of which our experience becomes seamless and so on. We'll continue investing the brand, so that the awareness about investing, about wealth building, goes to like corners of the country and so on. And then we have a very long product roadmap. What we have seen is that our product velocity drives the growth. So whenever we launch new products, it helps us grow. It helps us retention. So our retention rates are like very high. Then it helps us very high engagement and so on. And we continue doing that.
Okay. So, I do want to talk about some of the challenges that the sector is facing, right? Whether it is the F&O curbs, whether it is the fact that SEBI is looking to phase out weekly expiry as well. All of this, it is having an impact on your industry. So, how much do you think the impact could be going forward? And is this really a big challenge for growth?
So see, the way we look at it is, again, if we look at in a kind of larger context, 2016 we started, and since then all the regulations that have come have actually helped the industry and us as well, right? Whenever you have job of regulator is twofold, right? One, there are many things, but two bigger things are like grow the capital markets, and second thing is also to protect the customers. And these both philosophies are aligned with us, which that is why, like, kind of, it has overall. So 2013 direct plans were introduced, 2016 we started. And why did we grow direct plans? Then there's entry load got abolished, better for customers, but growth happened for the mutual funds and so on. This Aadhaar based KYC and onboarding happened. That was one big kind of this thing for growth, right? Kind of trigger for growth. UPI payments came, again big trigger for growth. Anyways, internet though played a big role there as well, like, low bandwidth and so on. So I think overall what happens is, like, you build more trust in the system with all these customer protection measures. Because of that trust in the system, lot more people come in the markets, and that's how, like, growth kind of happens.
But because of the F&O curbs, I do notice that it has impacted your revenues a bit. At least in Q1, your broking revenues were under pressure. Do you think that is something that could, continue in a couple of quarters?
So if you have seen, like, we have been kind of we are a multi-product company, right? So there are a lot of products, and other products have started contributing decent amount of good amount of revenue. So the diversification engine is working, and that's the reason why, if you compare Q1 to Q1, like, our drop is not very significant compared to, like, what F&O volumes fell down and so on. So we see that going forward also, like, we continue building on multiple products, and the growth of all these products will kind of take care of the overall growth. And
I noticed that you don't, look at yourself as a discount broker anymore. You've diversified into a whole host of products, and you're also very bullish on the wealth management space. So tell me a little bit about that, the AMC
yeah.
business. how big is the business right now? And because of this whole, India is going through this growth spurt from $4 trillion to $10 trillion, etc. How much of a part do you think that would play in the growth of the wealth management business for you?
Yeah. So by the way, we started as a well, like a mutual fund
Mutual fund, yeah.
thing, right? Broking we actually started in 2020. So first 4 years we were like a purely mutual fund distribution kind of business, and then broking of course took off very very fast and so on. The way we like to think about ourselves is that we are a platform where customers can come in, they have option to, like, they build their wealth through multiple products, through diversification. Like you'll have mutual funds, you'll have stocks, ETFs, bonds. You want to apply for IPO, you want to do derivatives, you want to, then now with the wealth category. So now what the one big trend that we are seeing over last 2-3 years is that the rise of affluent customers on the platform. So we started it as like, aspirant, like, people first time you are starting investing and so on. And think about somebody who joined in like to 2017, 2018. Let's say software engineer joined at that time. Now they grew in their lives and their AUM kept on kind of compounding. So like now we have a lot of affluent customers. And by the way, the growth of these affluent customers is more than 2 times faster than the overall platform growth, right? So now these affluent customers call us and tell, okay, now I need this. Now you Grow is very
You
democratic
mean the
platform.
absolute value or the growth of their
Growth,
portfolio?
growth is the growth of number of customers
Mm.
is 2x faster.
So, what percentage of your total customers are affluent, and how do you categorize affluent?
So we say AUM more than 25L
Okay,
is affluent, internal AUM. And we have in the RHP publish around 300,000
affluent.
affluent customers, which is kind of absolute terms are very large. Relative to Groww, that's like a percentage wise small, but then compared to all the affluent in the country, that's a very large number. So now these customers would ask you, can you get a bit anxious, right? Your portfolio is like 2 crore, and then you think, okay, tell me what should I do now? Because and then they need advisory, they need portfolio management services, they need alternate investment. Some folks want to invest in private equity, they need insurance to cover their everything and so on.
So, full stack
So full stack
providers.
provide, right? So that's like what ultimate objective of Groww was, like, become a full stack wealth platform for the for people in India, right?
So, what would that do for your revenues? I noticed that, in the last 3 years, your revenue growth has been pretty substantial. Now you're sitting at almost 4,000 crores of annual revenue, right? Now that you are going to be a part of the entire financial journey of a person, not just broking, not just trading, right? There's going to be mutual fund, there's going to be PMSs, AIFs, etc. All of that. How much do you think your overall top line growth could be over the next, say, look at a long term, 3 to 5 years?
So see, again, we can't project numbers, but I'll tell you the levers for growth and how it has worked so far. So the way our business model is, like, there are active customers, and then there is ARPU, average revenue per user, right? Active customers are now so retained customers plus the new transacting customer that we get. Now retained customer kind of, because of high retention, that number is also kind of growing, right? And new is because we are the fastest growing and so on. And ARPU, so we have multiple products. Every product will have some attach rate that you multiply by the wallet share of each product, like, how much customer activity is there in that product, and there what is the business model for each product different. Then you kind of sum everything for every product, and then you get revenue. Now what happens is, as more and more products keep getting launched, and as customers spend more time on the platform, the ARPU continues growing. Number of customers are also growing, so your revenue will continue growing. The levers are new products, the product adoption, the activity in that product, and so on. And the costs are cost to grow, which is like, because we are a 100% tech company, so all the costs, the three costs associated with the business, which is cost to serving the customer, cost to growing, and then cost to operate, all three are kind of not linear to revenue like any other tech company. So the operating leverages start kicking in, and that the margin expansion continues happening. So that is how, like, we see that with more products we add, this will continue kind of happening.
So can you give me what is the average revenue per user right now on an average? And now that you're adding more products, how much could you scale it up to? I'm just talking about like a trend.
Trend. So trend, if in DRSP you can see the trend of last 3 years, how ARPU has grown. Today, I think it starts. It's around 3,000 crore, 3,000 rupees.
Rupees. Average revenue. You'll get to 3,000 crore.
When we
Hopefully
saw like
someday.
ultra, yeah,
So 3,000 rupees per user
yeah,
is the average revenue.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And you can, I mean, you think you can scale that up a
Yeah,
lot
so
more?
you can come. So when we started actually, we were zero revenue company, and people used to ask us, how will you make revenue? And that was a simple answer for us because there are already so many financial services companies, so many wealth companies, and so on who are making revenue. There is a business model there, and then you have a sense of ARPU there, right? So that kind of same things give us confidence here also. If you look at the ARPUs of all the companies, like the potential ARPU is kind of high. So you can see the trend moving towards that.
Yeah.
So which is like what the another big growth lever is.
Also, in new age startups, I think nowadays, I mean, yours is relatively older in terms of a startup, but still nowadays it's very hard to get profit making companies, and you have been profitable for the last many years. I just want to understand whether you can build on to these profits, or you're sitting at almost about, I think, 1900 crores of profit, right, annually. Can you build on to these profits, or do you think, given that what SEBI is doing in terms of curbs on F&O, or in terms of, over-regulation, etc., do you think that this could be peak profitability for the company?
So as I said, so if our revenues grow, then they fall down to the profits because the cost they don't grow compared to the revenue. So and then if you look at the platform, right? So to launch any new product, by the way, the entire platform is already ready, right? So you have support, you have payments, you have order management, you have back office, everything is ready. You just need a small team that can, that has the domain and launch that product. And then whatever revenue comes for that product, there is incremental cost is very low. Even the server cost, for example, right? To serve 1 million customer versus 2 million customers, the server cost don't kind of go 2x, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with people. Like, if there are like X number of 10 people who are serving some X million of customers, for going further beyond that, you don't need to kind of double your team and so on. So in tech companies, like that's uh, how kind
The
of
operating leverage kicks in.
yeah.
So your costs remain the same, but your revenues, of
Not
course.
same.
I mean, they don't grow proportionately to the, of course. So it's fair to assume that margins could build on further from here.
Margins, yeah. Margins keep expanding. But there is, of course, theoretical limit.
Yeah.
But we are far from there.
So which is your biggest growth driver? Given that I know you're very big on the wealth business, but where do you see the biggest growth driver coming from the multiple new businesses that you're doing?
So in long term, wealth would be the biggest growth driver. In midterm, we launched MTF around a few quarters back. That is kind of taking off, and adoption curve is very, very fast. In short term, another product, commodities, that we are launching right now.
Okay.
So there are a bunch of products that are in pipeline, but immediately, like in the RHP, also we have mentioned these products. There's another product called loan against securities that would be a small component, but I think these three products, wealth, in midterm, long term. We also made an acquisition for wealth, by the way. It's a company called Fisdom that kind of. So we had all these customers, they needed service, and if we start from scratch to build those services, it would have taken like a lot more time. So these guys we knew very well, so we got them, and now we have the service layer as well for the customers.
That's great. Even your MTF book, I think it's around 1,000 crores or so.
Yes.
Okay, so you see that as a big growth driver as well.
Yeah, one of the growth drivers.
Okay. In terms of, the broking industry overall, right? I just wanted to understand, because we are seeing that the pace of growth in demat accounts, at least in the last few quarters, has reduced a bit. But is this like missing the woods for the trees? Do you think that the larger story is still intact, or are you seeing generally are you seeing a bit of a slowdown?
So we have seen this many times before. Typically, markets, as you know, like it's nature of markets to kind of show the ups and downs and so on. And we have seen the new customers coming into the industry kind of change based on that to some extent. Overall, if you see in long term, like as I said, like if we compare ourselves and penetration percentage wise and so on, there's a long way to go. but we can't say whether, so market is never linear. You can't get like fixed rate every year, right? So there will be some years there will be fast growth, some years there will be slow growth, some years there will be some amount of degrowth in number of customers coming into the markets and so on. So that is how we look at it. But you have to think very long term here.
Mm. No, I'm asking you because, coming back to that margin question, right? Your margins, it's very rare that you see a company having or an industry having 50% margins, for example, in terms of, I think adjusted margins are around that level, right? For you, if I'm
All tech
not wrong.
companies would have that kind of margins.
Yeah.
All software companies, all internet companies would have that kind of margins, right? Like it's
Well, not all, maybe some. 50% margins is hard. I mean, in any business,
no,
right?
if operating leverages are playing out in, like, if you compare in the US listed companies and so,
Yeah, in the US, yes. In
right?
India, it's
India software companies, there aren't too many, but you will see, right? I mean,
so you're saying that it's not like peak margins for the business. There is still scope for you to build on to these
yeah, I
margins.
mean, there will be incremental scope because we also continue investing into new businesses, right? A lot of new business and so on.
So the costs could go up over there because of
Not
that.
linearly compared to revenue. The cost will still kind of not be linear to revenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on overall for the industry, right? I'm not asking you for numbers, but for the industry on a like a CAGR basis, what kind of opportunity do you see across all segments?
See, number wise, it's kind of, I think it's very tough to kind of say numbers because you can always go off. You know our industry, how it is.
Yeah.
So, again, like, see, what you need to think about is like, think about next 10 years, 20 years, and so on. And then be prepared for years when, then when kind of growth does not happen and so on. One thing is about because of high retention, right? So even if new transacting customer slows down because of your high retained customers, your revenues are not as volatile as the new user growth,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So that kind of, and then also of course keep company lean, make it very tech based so that your fixed costs, your fixed costs don't blow up. So that discipline you need to keep. I think that's what I mean. We tell ourselves, and
So in terms of market share, I mean, coming to the market now, it's kind of like a duopoly, right? At the moment, you have I think, a little over 26% market
yes,
share. Um, do you think you could build on to that further?
yeah. So our incremental market share is higher. So yeah, we'll get to that incremental market share in both SIPs and in both demat accounts as well.
So, just looking back at the journey, right? Like I was saying, this is a market that is largely a duopolistic market where there is, of course, Groww and then there is Zerodha as well. And I was recently talking to a traditional, broking company, and they said that it's phenomenal how the new age guys, first generation entrepreneurs, have come out and started companies and gone way ahead of the traditional guys. What is it that you guys did differently?
So we come from very different world. So we have been investing in the market as a customer, but we were not from the industry, right? So we thought about this problem from a consumer point of view. कि कस्टमर को क्या समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, कस्टमर की क्या ज़रूरत है, एंड दैट्स हाउ वी काइंड ऑफ started building the product, right? And that somehow kind of touched to customer, like unko, so they got a good feeling about it. And then when customers start using a product that they love, they start talking about the beauty about our industry is that customers are very vocal. Like, so for example, today I come to know what is the next product I should launch. I don't need to put Excel sheets and figure out, oh, this product was, no, because customers tell, like, we get like hundreds of emails every day, ki this should come on Grow. So based on that itself, so if you look at our entire roadmap, that is how it was built. Mutual funds, stocks. Why did we launch stocks second? We could have launched insurance or something else like other players. But then because we had clear demand, and after that what to launch and so on. So I think thinking from customers' point of view, and then their support in kind of talking about us and spreading word of mouth, that was one big component. Second was tech component played a big role. So be it onboarding, support, order like speed, everything, right? Everything is tech driven, which makes customers' life, you can provide very superior customer experience. So everything is in house, by the way. We do everything kind of all tech. We try to do everything in house. We are That's the strength that we have. So that kind of helps us give this unfair kind of we have unfair advantage to give very superior customer experience. And that's also, by the way, have this side effect of having better operating leverage, because right. And third is then brand starts playing a role. So in financial services, when it's about hard earned money, you always go to people who are well known, and compounded over years, and so trust compounds over years, right? So then if your friend is using Groww, if your cousin is using Groww, then then you also use Groww, and so on. So these are like couple of factors that I can think of.
So your customer centric focus, is it more from the Flipkart culture? Is it where you picked it up from?
I think so, yeah. So Flipkart played a big role there. So Flipkart's DNA also comes from Amazon, and then that comes from Bezos, right? So if I mean we have been ardent follower of his philosophy, and then Sachin and Binny were also like very very kind of customer obsessed. So yeah, we have we have something called Operation Bezos. I mean, of course, in as a respect to him, in if you look at his annual reports, like he always talks about how it is day one and how customer obsession helps. And I think in this world, in at least in financial services, that is even bigger. See, e-commerce में आपका कभी आपने एक order किया और आपना fail हो गया, तो it's okay, right? It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
यहाँ पे if something happens, right, it's like it's not about 500 rupees or 100 rupees, or right, it's about your
Yeah,
net worth,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you have to kind of
And for most people, a lot of them have an association of fear with money, right? For
yeah,
them,
yeah,
they worry more than they enjoy money.
yeah,
A lot of customers.
yeah. So just imagine if somebody is sitting in, let's say Indore, उसने एक ऐप देखा, अरे दे डोंट इवन नो हु इज बिहाइंड दिस ऐप, एंड दे आर सेइंग कि अच्छा मैं इसमें अपना पूरा नेटवर्क डाल दूंगा. It takes you have to ensure that you are living up to the trust of that customer.
Yeah.
Every year, every day, every month, you have to keep compounding the trust.
Yeah.
And it's not ending here. You have to do that for next 50 years and so on.
So when you said Operation Bezos, what was that? Sorry,
No, that's like a so what happens is you are sitting in Bangalore and you don't know customers, so you need to feel the customer, right? So we have this, people need to take calls from the customers. You go to support office, take calls, uh, answer their emails and so on. So that is like one way of touching your customer. Then there are other bunch of other things also, like we have AIKG, Ab India Karega Invest. We go to tier 2, tier 3 towns. We meet people. Not just tier 2, tier 3, but also we have done in Bangalore as well, Bombay as well. So 200 cities we have covered. We go and meet customers, get to know how they kind of, how they feel about the product, any feedback from them, and so on. So these kind of things, this is like some interventions that you need to do in your day to day life. Otherwise आप बैंगलोर में बैठे हो, AC में काम कर रहे हो, you don't get the feel of your customer, right? It's online, 100% online.
Correct. Do you think it's harder or easier to get to customers now, given how much has changed with respect to, say, social media and the internet and all of that?
No, I think trust बहुत बड़ा factor है. I'm speaking about our industry. It will be different for different industries, but at least in this industry, trust is a very big factor. So, and trust building takes time. That's what we have seen.
But what do you think you and, say, a Zerodha did differently in that context? Because I do know that a lot of these traditional players have built trust over years. But then 10 years back, or less than 15 years back, here are two players that have come in, first generation entrepreneurs who've changed the game of the broking industry. So what did you do differently?
I told you, focus on the customer, focus on tech, and then keep compounding on the experience. And another thing is, see, what we are also scared of all the time is that every generation brings different kind of behavior. Like we were talking about our kids before this thing, right? And like you have to understand them, right? And sometimes it gets tough if because there, first of all, there are geographical things, right? There's like India is like so
India is like
so
50
diversified,
countries in one.
right?
Yeah.
So that is one thing, which is good, by the way. And then there are different age groups. There are different profiles, right? So you have to, as you become more and more democratic, you have to take time and put effort to kind of keep understanding your customer. If you don't do that, there would be somebody who will pick up that pick up that behavior and build something.
So we were talking about how now the new generation to focus on is the teenage. These are not just Gen Z, even the younger ones, right? Like the say 13 to 18-year-olds who are equally interested in the markets as much as the older guys. So is it a different way to target that audience?
No, we'll come to know. Like I think till 18 you can't open your this
Yeah.
thing, right? So I think something will like definitely behavior तो different है होगा ही होगा,
हाँ.
right? Like पहले और in fact one insight is that पहले earlier generation change used to happen like after few years.
Ten.
अभी generation changes are happening faster because the trend, because of internet, and because so virality, because of all these things, the change is much faster is
Yeah.
what I feel.
Possible, possible. I mean, the feedback that I also get from a lot of people, right, is that the association with the brand, if it's a younger brand, if it's a new, like young people want newer brands.
Mm-hmm.
If a brand is old, however good it is, if you see this in every category, right? If you look at it in luggage wear, if you look at it in coffee, if you look at it in clothing, if you look at, they don't care as much about, you know, sort of luxury or premium as much as they care about just something new and something fun. So in that context, do you think why some of the younger brands that you guys have put out, so a Groww or a Zerodha, whatever, has worked compared to the traditional guys?
No,
Is that
I have
factor?
different opinion there. I think they're older. So in when it comes to about this, so I'll give you other example. Like Ferrari is still a very big brand, right? How many years has it been?
But it's not that aspirational anymore. I hope you know that.
Ferrari is
It may be aspirational for you and me, but not so much for the
no.
younger
If you go to
generation.
like a kid's room, I think you will find a poster of a car. Right. So aspirations are there. And then if you look at like Indian financial institutions are also right, they're quite they have compounded trust over many years. If you look at across the globe, who are the biggest asset managers, who are the biggest kind of wealth creators. So I think as you kind of heritage plays a role, as you kind of keep compounding trust and as your AUM keeps growing, that I think adds to the trust. There will be new brands that will come. And again, their T0 starts from that point of time. Our T0 started in 2016.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's interesting you gave this car analogy. I should tell you because I have a son who's 8 and his aspiration is to, but if he had to pick between a Tesla and a Mahindra EV, he would pick a Mahindra EV
Because in
because it's local and because it's, there is kind of relatability and it's really
yeah,
cool looking.
yeah.
And I mean, I'm just giving you an example of how they
Mahindra
think.
they have kind of done so well in this category, right? Like
Yeah.
they are so nice
Homegrown local
brand,
brands are.
super crazy brand they have created.
Yeah, some brand insights there. But for you, it's been an amazing journey, Lalit. I mean, we spoke about this the last time, right? That I'm sure a lot of people know by now, but you come from a really small like a village, and you've gone from this journey of being born into a small village to, starting a broking business to listing one of the largest broking businesses in India. Um, how has that journey been for you? Do you sometimes just wake up and wonder, like, oh my God, did this really happened to me?
So see, I've been what I keep thinking and telling people is that I've been very lucky overall. Like village, my parents were there, but I got to study in a district like Khargone, right, where there was again coincident English medium started at the same time when I was there. So I was there lucky as well. And like I could have been born in a neighbor's house in my village, and then I would have been no like my I mean we were decently kind of capable to kind of send me
To an English
to
medium.
a school and lot of kind of things, right? And then I came to know somehow about IIT Bombay through some newspaper and so on, and then or my principal, and then I was again lucky there to kind of get into this world of startups and so on. So I think there is, if in the hindsight, if you see in your life, there are multiple paths you can take, and then you took certain paths and arrived at somewhere. So there's a lot of kind of luck factor that plays there. And then also that kind of also gives you confidence to do something, even kind of keep doing something kind of bigger in the next thing, because this is like a also kind of a footing that you get for the next thing, right?
A lot of successful people talk about luck being a huge factor. I completely get that, but luck is very external, right? I'm sure there is something internally also that you sort of cultivate over time, which helps you navigate and take those decisions. Because if everything was luck dependent, then a lot of people would be more successful or less successful than they are today. But that's not the case.
Yeah, luck is a big kind of factor, as you said, external factor, and then you have to be like maybe curious. Curiosity plays a big hunger. Hunger is big thing, right? Like you can always be complacent with what you have and then not do kind of lot of that's also good life, by the way. You are happier in that way. In if you are ambitious, happiness is very kind of anti of ambition is what I feel. But then if you have too much ambition, then you keep kind of wanting more and more.
So you're saying if you're content, you're happier.
It's what I feel like. If you're if you're too ambitious, then you keep thinking about okay, what next. And if you're content, you can go relax on a beach and read and
Which one are
cook. And
you?
so I am definitely, I am more hyper. Like I need action. I always need action. So
I am very ambitious, but I'm also happy. Like
no, no, of course. I mean, I'm not saying like everybody can be. So happiness is such a tough thing to describe. Like I don't think even if you do PhD, you can figure out what is happiness and what is. It's a very loaded concept.
yeah.
It's a very different thing, right? So I think it's.
But do you struggle with it as much? Because I don't know, like I find that a lot of people who've made a lot of wealth also struggle with this whole definite. One would think that, okay, once you've achieved that pinnacle of success and then, that's where your kind of peak happiness is. But that's
No,
really not the
that's not.
case.
For me, happiness is being in the action. Like when I'm the action, like you are in the flow, right? That's when you kind of, and in that flow you need to have decent amount of challenge, decent amount of of sail through and so on. So it's like Goldilocks zone. So that's the kind of that's something that work or
So are you in the Goldilocks zone right now? Because, capital markets is a different kind of challenge, right? Hitting
I
the
mean,
markets.
see, capital markets is so again. I don't think it like capital markets or not capital. I think more from the customer side of the things. कि भाई इंडिया में like India will grow. Like we have to start from there. Otherwise, we should not sit here. We
Yeah,
should kind of
correct.
India will grow, compound. India's wealth will grow. इंडिया में बहुत जनता जनता रिच होगी like lot of 25-year-olds will become 35-year-olds and 45-year-olds and they will go very very rich and their wealth will also move from they are not going to put their money in some assets which don't yield them, right, or which is not transparent or high transaction cost, and they will everything will become more and more transparent, more and more easy and so on, right? So they will also move. So अब आपको what you need to do is to continue understanding their needs and continue building things for them. If you keep doing that, I think you will do good, is what I feel.
Basically doubling down on that one concept and then just building onto that.
Yes.
But do you see, because you've been a big part of this whole startup boom, right? And the last 10, 15 years, do you see enough and more opportunities for young startup owners or young startup founders even today? Or do you think a lot of the white spaces are...
नहीं, white space कभी खत्म नहीं होती. Like every time you will think, yeah, now it's like market side. You will say, oh, now you can't buy anything, but there will be something. Like startups also, like there will be always some problems in this world, right? And you will continue solving that. You could have thought about in 2000 also. Now everything is done. All .com are like if you go for it, go to buy a domain, grow.com नहीं मिलेगा, कुछ भी नहीं मिलेगा अभी. So you'll think सब कुछ खत्म हो गया. But then somebody will find something, and So I think entrepreneurship in India is like going to go wild because now there are just we got inspired from the first generation like Sachin, Bini, our Sanjeev sir, and then Make My Trip and so on, right? And then hopefully this second, third generation of entrepreneurs will also inspire like third, fourth, fifth generation. And I think we are just getting started. So US mein now you will see lot more startups because their journey started like from Steve Jobs or Fair. What was that company of the semiconductor company that Intel and before that, the entrepreneurship started since then, so it's like going to go crazy. We are at like very, very solid times for entrepreneurship.
So is there any like spanner in the works, anything you feel could become a challenge for the growth in the country? Because, there is this whole talk also about how demographic dividend could become a demographic disaster if there are no jobs, right? And now with AI and everything, that is a big issue that everyone's talking about. So do you think any of that could impact? Because see, if there are no jobs, then people will have no money to spend. Then there will also be a lot of this like F&O trading, trying to make quick money, losing money in the market. That's also been a big concern that SEBI has had.
तो दो अलग अलग क्वेश्चन है लाइक
हाँ,
सो फर्स्ट no, so first one तो यार we figure out a way India like we will figure out a way we have if you look at our history we have figured out lot of problems and there were a lot of problems and we figure out a way of course challenges तो होंगे the second on the FNO thing this is I think very kind of now problem has been curtailed a lot more and so on but I think it's very important for us to encourage customers to kind of think about long term think take being responsibility is very very important so that is also kind of balance is very important as I said like growth is on one side but responsibility like customer protection is like equally important because it's like car right you can't drive fast if you don't have brakes so like customer protection is like that you have to kind of um
double down on that.
yeah
And you think SEBI is doing enough, or is there more to be done? From your lens, what more do you think needs to be done to kind of strengthen or, kind of regulate the system a bit more?
well, I think they know a lot more than us
Yeah.
and they've been doing a lot so I think I'm not in a situation to advise
No, just from from a business owner point of view.
maybe when I am very old then I'll probably
But all the best for the IPO, by the way. And I know that it's interesting times because there's flood of IPOs in the market, and some good, some ugly, some not so good. But I'm sure with the way whole the whole economy is growing, at least that's my personal opinion, the whole economy is growing, certain facets like financial services, luxury, premiumization are just themes that will continue to evolve, and I'm sure your business will do equally well. Just some final thoughts on overall, like where do you see the company, or where do you see yourself as an entrepreneur like 5 years from now? What could be the next thing that you're working on and the next vision for the company?
So we want to become the wealth platform in the country, right? If like full stack. So whatever customers need to kind of build their wealth, that should be on Groww. That product should be on Groww. Of course, we would be the leader. We should be the leader brand and kind of most preferred brand, most loved brand. In most, I mean, that's a better word. Like kind of become like an iconic brand. Like how iconic. So I'm personally fascinated by these iconic brands that they have survived for so many years and still very aspirational, very solid product quality. We still kind of use them and so on, right? So we want to be like,
Which ones?
no, like Apple is iconic brand, Nike is iconic brand, right? Those kind of like, you feel good about that, right?
So for a brand to sustain for say 15, 20, 30 years, right? You spoke about three things. Of course, customer, there is trust, there is also adaptability, I guess, adapting to new trends, changes, new generations. What else? Anything else that you think is
No,
required?
you need to build capabilities also, like because agar up even if you know all these things and if you can't build like Ferrari has a capability, Apple has capability, right?
I think you should buy a Ferrari now for yourself. I think that's on your bucket list.
But I'm just saying, that the capability is very important. Like tech for us, like tech is capability. Now, if you have millions of customers and if you can't serve them in the best way, I mean, we need to serve in the best way. We have to provide superior customer experience, right? So yeah, that's.
Okay, one final question. I think I missed out on this earlier on wealth management because of how many wealth management established players are there today, right? Are you finding it hard to navigate in that space or to penetrate the market? Or do you think that because you already have a platform, you already have the customer base, you're just kind of, the funnel seems easier for you to.
Yeah, no, so we are thinking in a very different way. See, by the way, we have always got in a very, in markets where there are lot of players.
Yeah.
When we started mutual funds, there were a lot of mutual fund apps and players. When we started broking, there are too many brokers and so on. When we started like AMC, so basically the way we think is that we think we are wealth also we are thinking very differently. Our wealth management will be more tech driven, more transparent. So today wealth is more like you get somebody, then somebody tells you something and so on. But if on Groww, we first of all it will be for Groww customers who are kind of graduated into that category and so on. there's a different app for them called W. There they can kind of track their entire net worth. So transparency becomes very important. If you have to buy new products, all products are listed there. So they can browse through all the products. They can see what is good for me. If they need help, they can talk to the wealth partner, how is it? And wealth partners incentives would not be like, how much they sell or something, right? And then you can also all the advice that you get in the app itself through AI and all those kind of things. So there are a bunch of new things that we will do. It, of course, it will take time. What I am saying you is not going to happen today. It's building a solid experience there, which we have taken in other products also. This is how we see like making wealth management very simple and transparent.
And a more tech-enabled
More tech
experience.
enabled, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Lalit, we've really run out of time, but thank you so much for joining me on the show, and all the very best. I'm sure your IPO will go through well, and next time we speak, you'll be much better off. So thank you so much for
Thank you so much, Sonia. Yeah.